Hi YouTube! So today we finally do a tutorial of the play interaction which I talked about last week. This is a simple wallet interaction, as you can see on the screen. It's just a tilt to show all your different cards, and it was inspired by Lauren Del Rey. They are an amazing designer on Twitter. You should follow them, and maybe me too if you find my stuff cool. Anyways, without wasting any more time, let's start with the tutorial. So this is how the whole thing is going to work. On the right side, you can see there's a app opened up which is called the Bezel app. You can see my phone screen there. And before even starting with anything on Play, you'll need these design assets from Figma. I'll leave a link down to this Figma file in the description. You can open it up and you can export all these assets from that file. And when you have all those assets ready to go, you can finally open up Play. And in Play, you can either click on New Project or open up the project you were working on. For me, this is my new project because I can't bother enough to name my projects and layers. I'm that kind of a designer. So yeah, here, the first thing I'm gonna do is open my asset section, and from there, I'm gonna open up my Finder. So from my Finder, I'm gonna copy all these assets which I'm gonna need to play, and the thumbnails sometimes show up, sometimes don't. The team is still fixing, I guess, but they are here. You have to trust it. Once you're done with that, just click on this image button, image tool, and click anywhere outside. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use a reference image. So I'm just gonna put the reference screen that I made in Figma so that I can have a look at it once in a while. That my prototype is similar to the design I made in Figma. What you can do is you can see how the width is fill. So even if this is outside the frame of the phone, it's still going to fill to the width of the phone. So what you can do is also fill in height so that now it's exactly the height of the phone. Next thing you're going to do is select the whole page, and let's make the background black because that is what we're done here. And now you can click on this stack tool, which is like a frame in Figma, but you can click here and like drag to make a stack in the page, or you can just select the page and press S. It'll just fix the stack where you might want it to be. Now, how iOS development works is that there's either vertical stacks or horizontal stacks. So if I put in an image in there, this is my stack. Currently it's a vertical stack. So if I duplicate this image, it's gonna go down. But if I make it a horizontal stack, it's gonna be stacked horizontally, as you would expect. And this is a Z stack. So this basically means you can place the image wherever you want. First of all, we're going to make this bottom sheet. So to make the bottom sheet, what I'm gonna start with is I'm gonna set any height, like it doesn't really matter. We're gonna fix it in a bit. I'm gonna select the page again and press on S. Now there's another stack. So let's name the stacks. So I usually don't, but let's do it for the tutorial's sake. I don't want my viewers to be confused, obviously. So let's make it a bottom sheet and cards. So what I'm gonna do is make the cards stack height as fill. Now, no matter what this height changes to, the top is always going to fill. So what that means is basically the bottom sheet can either take a lot of space in the page, like you can drag it up or drag it all the way down. That's the top stack will always be responsive to that and change the size accordingly and show the cards accordingly. If there's a card on the bottom, you can see it once you like pull the bottom sheet down. So what we're gonna do for the bottom sheet is we go to blur and we add a material. So let's make this material dark. You're gonna see that the color is quite similar. And next thing is we're gonna add a shadow, and the shadow is going to be white for the upper rim of it. and we're gonna make it from from outer to inner. You can either drag this to change it, or you can just use the drop down, but this is going to be an inner one, and the offset is somewhere around like, I don't know, 3. And let's change the opacity to somewhere around 10. This looks good. And what we're going to do is add a corner radius to the whole stack. Something like 32 looks good, right? Pretty similar. Let's make the shadow from 3 to 2. Yeah, perfect. Now what you can see is on the bottom there's a bit of space. So this is what in iOS coding terms or Swift UI terms you call the safe space, so that people can still see the top status bar and the home bar on the bottom. So what you're gonna do is select the whole page, and you can either go to this more settings and close it from here, or you can just see the layout on the right side in the properties panel and disable top safe area and bottom safe area, and now you can see that it went down all the way. Another thing, just to make sure that there's no extra black space at the bottom corners, what I'm gonna do is in corner radius, I'm gonna make the bottom ones 0 so that there's only top radius. And then we're going to add a stack inside the bottom sheet. So this one, but this one is going to be this grabber. I'm gonna make it 4 pixels or 5 pixels in height, and width will be somewhere in 32. That's too less. 64 maybe. 64 is too much. 52. Yeah, 52. So now I'm gonna add a background to FF and add it. I'm gonna pin it to the top middle. There's a few things you can do here. We can either add a margin to this. So you can add the top margin, which is around 8, or you can add padding in the bigger stack, but I prefer to do it this way. There's no right answer to this. Just increase the corner radius and decrease the opacity to somewhere like 10%. There's a lot of flexibility. You don't need to like do it one way. There's a lot of ways to do the same thing. I'm gonna add another stack, and this one I'm gonna make the background black and decrease. Oh, this time, since there's going to be stuff inside, so for example, I'm gonna put a text inside the stack, like I'm recreating this part. So let's say I make white text, and now this time if I reduce the opacity of the whole stack, the opacity of the text is also going to decrease. So I'm going to decrease the opacity of just the background here, so something like 70 maybe. And now I'm going to choose the whole bottom sheet and add some padding to it, so something like this. So 32 looks good. And I'm gonna add some corner radius to this thing, so 16 feels great. Yeah, feels good enough. And I'm gonna add some padding to this thing too, so 24 is fine. And for the height, so it's not a random height, so I'm gonna make it so that the whole box adjusts its height to the content inside of that stack. So that is basically height to auto, so it's gonna hug the contents inside of the whole stack. So let's say I'm gonna make it, so this is system font, so I can't change it here. I'm gonna change the font to SF Pro and make the font weight medium. And I'm gonna duplicate this, so now it goes down, right? So I'm gonna change the orientation to horizontal instead of vertical, and let's write some random amount of money. If only I was responsible with my money, I would have somewhere near this left in my bank account. But so what I just did was press B, which added a SF symbol. You can do that from here too. You can just click here and it adds an SF symbol. You can change the color. So what you can do is double click here, and now you can choose any of these categories to select, or you can just search. So what I'm going to do is just type right. So I'm just, chevron forward. So not right, just chevron forward. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to select both of these and press Ctrl G to make a new stack. This one, the distribution is going to be in the middle, and same here. Now you can see the savings is on the top. It's aligned from the top. I'm going to make it alignment to the center, and I want them to be spaced as far as possible from the middle. What I'm going to do is keep it to the start, and I'm just going to make the savings text width to fill. Now it's going to fill as much space as possible till this reaches the very end. Now that way I don't need to manually set in the values for the gap. This is just going to change accordingly. If I change the number here, it's still going to take up as much space as possible. I'm going to add a shadow, and the shadow is again going to be an inner shadow. Let's make this completely black because it's gonna I'm trying to show it that it's indented. So I'll make it inner shadow, which is black, and blur it a bit. I think I should reduce, somewhere here. This is better. Add another shadow, and this one's actually going to be outer shadow, which is white. Okay, so now what is happening exactly is that the shadow behind is also showing up behind the box itself because the background is transparent. What I'm gonna do is reduce the opacity to something like this and increase the opacity here. So just play around with the values and see what works for you. Again, I keep saying this, but basically I'm just doing whatever looks good. There's no formula for this. Just do whatever feels right to you. So something like this. I'm just gonna change the first shadow a bit so that it looks better. Softer shadows are always better. Like, there's no reason for you to make shadows too harsh or like too bold. Softer shadows always look good. Anyways, you're gonna make another stack in the whole bottom sheet. So this is going to be your list of transactions. So let's make one big list and make the height as fill. Now you can see there's some padding. So I'm gonna select the bottom and change the bottom padding to 0 because we want it to scroll down. Here, I'm gonna add another stack. So it's like just adding frames inside frames inside frames like you do for auto layout in Figma. So again, this is one stack, and I'm gonna add, so this one's going to be horizontal. So I'm gonna just make it horizontal and add an image, make a custom size for the image. So 58 and 58 should be good. And I'm just gonna select this, add some text, change the color to white to be apple ink, and I'm gonna duplicate this like so. I'm gonna write some random date, doesn't really matter. Now again, I can select these two, Command G, and make it so that it's vertical. And this time this text needs to be less less in opacity. So I'm gonna make it 50%, and I'm also gonna change the system font from 17 to 15, so it looks like footer text. I'm gonna make this height to auto so that it again hugs the content inside. Here I'm gonna add another text field, which is going to be this section. I'm gonna make it $3,500. You can't really see it. Let me make this white. There you go. And I'm gonna add another B. So I pressed B, which is the shortcut for SF symbols again. And T is for text. So every time I'm adding text, I press T. So select these two, Command G again. The size though, somewhere around, let's say 24. So this is a container size. The inner size is this. So I'm gonna make it like this stack. Alignment is going to be centered. I'm gonna add some padding, like 8 pixels of padding. Gap, let's reduce the gap. And the background is going to be some kind of red, and decrease the opacity, something like this. Add a corner radius like 12. I'm just gonna eyeball the color and just press the left key on this to move it to the left. Now you have your first container. So what I'm gonna do is in this width, width is going to be fill, so that it pushes it all the way to the right. Center it all. Let's make the gap 12. There you go, perfect. Now we need some padding on the top, so we can select the whole big container, go to padding, increase the top padding to something like 24 is nice. And this is one component. Now what I'm gonna do is add this line. So to add this line, there's no SVGs here, so I'm just gonna add another stack, set a custom height of 3, and make the background color as white, and decrease the opacity. So something like 10 seems good, and increase the gap to 16. 16 looks cool. And I'm gonna select both of these containers, Command D to duplicate, and I'm just gonna press down to move it down. I'm gonna do it again, and that's pretty much it. I'm just not gonna bother with all of them. I'm just gonna change this to Spotify. So this is your bottom sheet. All right, now here comes the main part. So select this top section. So how you would want to do this is you put a stack inside here. Let's put an image first. So let's select the image. I just made the stack to auto, the highest stack height to auto, so that it changes according to the image height. I'm gonna go to the image, and here in aspect fill, I'm gonna make it fit so that the whole image is fit inside the image container. I'm gonna change it so that it kinda works, something like this. Now this is the stack. Select the cards. I'm just gonna increase the padding a bit more, something like 24 feels better. Now in padding, you can increase the top one so that there's like enough space and you do not have to see the top status bar. So 128 looks good, right? It looks similar to what we had in the image, so I'm just gonna leave it there. So this is one of your cards. So I'm gonna name this stack as red stack. So this is your one of your card. Now what you're gonna do is duplicate the cards, right? So let's just duplicate this, change the card to maybe blue, and I'm gonna change the name to blue stack. You can scroll inside the container. So blue stack, I'm gonna duplicate it 2 more times. Now you can select the image inside and change it to maybe black. Now just change the names. There you go. So you have this container. Now you can see you cannot see the other cards behind this bottom, but like just below the red card, right? So what you're gonna do is increase the gap. So something that just looks fine, like 128, great, looks great. Now comes the main part. Whole design is set up to be animated. What you're gonna do is take out your phone and open the Play app on your phone, right? And it says connect to Mac OS. I'm just gonna open this project again so that it reloads, right? You can see iPhone 14 connected. So I can just press on this and now I have a working prototype. I can scroll to see, but that's not what we were trying to do, right? what we're going to do is add an interaction so that when I tilt my phone, as you can see in the cam, when I tilt my phone, it is going to slide down the bottom sheet and show all my cards, right? So to do that, what are we going to do is let's go to interaction tab. So now comes the main meat and potatoes of this whole video. Here you go, page, right? So in the page, delete this trigger. So we're going to set a trigger, right? So the trigger is going to be gyroscope. So gyroscope is the sensor inside of your phone which tells the phone that, oh, your phone moved by this many degrees or in this axis, right? So you can see there's x-axis and you can say y-axis or z-axis or like all. So what we want to do here is just use x-axis. So to understand more about how the gyroscope works and like what does the actual position of the gyroscope or the axis of the gyroscope works, you can refer to this blog that Play writes on their own website. I can leave a link of this in the description below, and you can kind of read through it and understand what is the x-axis or z-axis or y-axis. But for now, what you want to know is that moving your phone like this, like picking up your phone or laying down your phone, that axis, it is happening on the x-axis. So for now, I'm gonna leave it at x-axis because that is the one which we need. And the minimum is, okay, so how it starts is this is basically, this is the x-axis, right? This is the x-axis, and moving like this is negative. So this moving like this is positive, this is negative. It's just how it is. You have to try out these numbers. I played around with these numbers a lot and that's how I got to know, but this is 0 and this is negative. So what is going to happen is I want that whole interaction to happen once it's over minus 30 degrees and stop at minus 60 degrees. So this is minus 60, this is minus 30. So I'm going to keep the minimum at minus 60 because, so, okay, it should be like this is a minimum and this is maximum, right? But since we're going in negative, it's going to be the reverse. It may sound confusing and is confusing, but this is how the gyroscope is configured. So you kind of have to deal with it. We want the offset to be 0. So just so that you don't introduce more complications into it. But basically right now, all you need to know is max is minus 30 and minimum is minus 60. You can play around with these values to kind of explore what else you can do with different axes and different numbers, but that is it for now. What you're going to do is next you're going to set the action. So gyroscope is the trigger and next comes the action. So you're going to set 3D rotation. So 3D rotation of not the whole page. So right now it's targeting the whole page. What you want to do is set it to just the red stack, like the red card, right? And you want it to only move on the x-axis. You want it only to like flip towards you. So x-axis, and I'm gonna ignore mirror max values because that we don't want it to like flip backwards as much as it's gonna flip forwards. I'm gonna show you an example, but for now, let's make it minus 60. And max is again going to be 0. So I'm going to show you what will happen. So this is 0 and this is minus 30. This is where the animation starts and this is where it stops. So minus 60, right? So see, this is minus 60. And no matter how much forward you move it after that, it's still going to stay at minus 60. So if I do this, what it's going to do is when it's flat, it's going to move minus 60 to plus 60. The card is going to flip backwards. Like you see this? Before I wanted to stop at 0. This is 0, right? But it goes back to 60 degrees if the phone is at 0. So let's make this 0. Okay, so in simple terms, when the phone is at 0 degrees, nothing happens. But when it comes to minus 30, that's when the gyroscope is at minus 30, right? This is minus 30. and that's when the card is at 0. And at minus 60, the card also goes to minus 60. So I can make it like minus 45 and it'll flip less. So let it refresh. I'm just gonna play it again just in case. So you see how it flips less this time. This is the most complicated part, but there's only one way to do this. Like, you just have to try it out. I can tell you all the numbers, but it's never gonna work out unless you try out the numbers and kind of understand how the gyroscope works. But it is what it is, right? So you see now, sometimes what can happen is the corners can get cut off. So what I'm trying to say is, let's go back to design, select the red stack, and here if you click on this 3D transform, there's the perspective is 106, right? So for example, if it's 120, and let's go to interaction now, see how the corners get cut off. So anytime you're trying to make an interaction and this kind of happens in the 3D space, what you can do is go select the stack where it is happening and change the perspective. So perspective is like how far the vanishing point is. So I mean, it's a lot of like 3D and mathematical kind of discussions, but you can just change the values and try it out, basically, if you don't want to get into it so much. There you have it. This is for one card, right? So it's working perfect. Now there's so much more we want to do, right? So right now only one card's flipping, but if I scroll down on my phone, you can see all the other cards still don't do anything. So we want the same thing to happen to all the other cards. So let's keep our phone aside, click on this, or you can just copy action, go to the trigger and paste action, right? And here, just change it to blue stack. Now, when I flip it, if you go down, see the blue is also doing the same thing. So let's minimize this. And paste it 2 more times. Right there you go. There you go. If it worked perfectly, so it should happen for all the cards, right? Now I don't want to scroll down. Like, if I still have to scroll down, then the whole purpose of this prototype doesn't work. And we also want this the bottom section to go down, right? So you can see how this is also scrolling. So Play does it on its own. Like, you don't have to tell them that, oh, this is scrollable. It makes so that every stack is scrollable. So less work for you guys. On gyroscope, what you're gonna put is 3D translation. Translation is not going to be on self, it's going to be on bottom sheet, right? And you only want them to move on Y axis. So Y is up and down. All right. So similarly, let me make sure I'm putting in the right values, because I don't want this video to be like an hour long. So again, mirror max values should be off. So, okay. So the amount we want the whole thing to move, the bottom sheet to move, is going to be the height of the bottom sheet, just so that you don't see it. So let's go back to design and check the height of the bottom sheet. It's 394, right? So go back to interactions, go to page, and translation. So minimum value is that you don't want it to move. Sorry, max is like when it's on 0. So basically, again, when it's on minus 30, the maximum value, or 0, because 0 is the greatest value here. Again, more than negative. So max is no movement at all. You don't want it to move. And the most movement is going to be 394, right? So now what's going to happen is, as soon as I flip it, as soon as I flip it up, it's going to go down. Now, one thing is, you see how you cannot see the bottom card. Like, it kind of gets cut off at the top, because this is like a 3D rotation. The top, like, technically the bottom sheet stack is still there, and the top section has not increased its height. So for that, a simple solution is go back to design, go to cards, and you see clip to bounds, right? That currently like clips off wherever the container ends. If you disable this, you can see it behind. Now it again gives a very cool effect on the bottom sheet because it's a material, like a dark blurring material, so it kind of background blurs whatever is behind the bottom sheet, which is a very cool kind of thing. I like it. It's like depends on personal taste, or you can just set it to one color, so that can also be done. You can just go here, change it to like black, and there you go, right? But I like how it was, so I'm gonna keep it like this. Depends from taste to taste. I don't know, like maybe in some cases there might be a visibility issue, but the dark material from human interface guidelines kind of make sure that whatever's on top of the dark material is readable. So now what is going to happen is I'm going to pick up my phone, and there you go, right? Now you can see every card behind it. It looks cool, right? Now the last thing is you want the position of these cards to change. You want the cards to come up, right? So that you don't have to scroll. So the last part is just set Y position. So target, again, not going to be self, not the whole page. Just select the blue stack, right? And from percentage you can go to points. Now there's one kind of thing I love, like this slider thing. I don't have to like click it multiple times. I can just click and drag to set it to point. I feel that's faster. Just a simple little thing I like about Play. Now the next thing is, again, max is going to be 0. You don't want it to move, and minimum you want it to move by whatever. So again, these numbers are from like an hour of trial and error. It took so long to figure these numbers out. So it's not that I just knew what the number is, right? Some of them is like common sense, like how much the bottom sheet should move, but it just takes time, right? So you have to give it time. I'm just telling you the numbers so that this video doesn't take forever. Anyways, so like so, and let's just make the easing 100% just to make it smoother. Now the card moves up. I feel minus 300 is like too much, so I'm just gonna make it minus 280 or something. Resetting view, and there you go. And so we just need to do this 2 more times. So let's copy the action. So this time I'm gonna change from blue to black, blue to gray. But the funny thing is they're gonna move how many ever points you put in from their original position. So they're not going to come up to the top. It's going to stay below. So what you're going to do is whatever's after blue, like the black one, this is going to be double. I think 560. There you go. And same for this. This is going to be triple. So 560 plus 560 plus 280 is whatever, like 840, right? So just going to put in this. There you go. See, just adding some flair to finish up this thing. What I'm gonna do is go back into design, and I'm just gonna add some shadows behind the card so that when it stacks up, it feels like they're actually in 3D space. Just go to blue, go to shadow, and you can just keep checking, to be honest. Like what you're gonna do is make it towards the back, like 12. You can see here the shadow got added, like see how it's changing. So I'm just gonna make it something like 17 and blur it a bit like so, and increase the opacity, and you're gonna do the same thing. There you go, that is behind the black one, and once more behind this one. So that's pretty much it. Like you can change how it looks. You can make it look brighter. You can make it in light mode. You can play around with the values, change how it looks and stuff, but this is pretty much it. This is how this interaction works. I hope this video is helpful, and make sure you follow me on Twitter to see more upcoming like explorations of these kind of prototypes, because I'm really into Play right now, and I'm thinking what else can we do with Play. And Play is just every day coming up with new features, and they're putting out a lot of videos and learning resources. So you can just go onto their website in the learn section, and you can see what else they have come up with and what else you would like to try. And subscribe to this channel so that you are updated on all the videos I drop. Hope this video was helpful. See you in the next one. Bye now. Yeah, this is my intro. I'm just gonna, okay, see ya, bye. You can go. Okay, I'm just gonna, okay.